Let's talk about the retailer timeline. It's really important in this section to be able to talk about proper expectations. The natural tendency in most industries is for a fast sell-through and a fast sell cycle. That's just not the case in retail sales, specifically in the United States. Selling products to retail is a multi-year proposition, depending if you're selling to a small mom and pop shop, a regional chain, a distributor, or a national retailer. A typical sales cycle for a larger retail chain is 6 months to a year. There's nothing you can do to speed up that sales cycle. Retail buyers have a specific POG, a planogram, a 4-foot section. They have to figure out in this planogram products that they're going to be deleting, products they're going to be adding in. This takes time. Have proper expectations, otherwise you're going to be wildly disappointed. Imagine you're a retail buyer. Each day you open up your inbox and you have 250 brands that are all trying to vie for a spot in your store. Most brands have unrealistic expectations. They think, boy, there's so much shelf space. Certainly our product can get in the store. What they don't understand is that 95% of the product in the store remains year after year.
That's right. And a lot of times when you have a new company and a new brand, they are so excited about their product. They think their product is the best. And so they get big eyes thinking like, of course, everybody's going to want us. And that may be the case, but still buyers have constraints that they have to work with. They only have, like Jeremy said, 5% window of things that they're going to switch out, things that they need to switch out because of problem areas, problem products that haven't been moving as fast as they want. So the 5% out of that, 3% of that 5% is going to still be different SKUs from the big boys like Colgate or Crest. So you're fighting essentially for 2% of that shelf space. And that, you can imagine, is going to be a really big fight. You have to have everything really buttoned up so that you can present to a buyer and they can trust you enough to give you that 2% on their shelf.
That's right. At Anthill Retail, and what we recommend for your brand is to put as many lines in the water as possible. If you're going after that 2% and you're going against hundreds of other products and dozens of other brands, be realistic that you might not get that shot. The way you're going to win is by opening up conversations with buyers across the entire channel.
And throughout the year, you have to keep constant conversation and new conversation with these buyers and remain relevant in their minds so that they can think of you when their slot opens up and when it's their time to buy.
Let's expand on the average sales cycle for a national chain. Typically the case is most retail chains have one review date per year. The other opportunity that you may have with a specific retailer is a cut-in date, where they're going to be deleting bad products mid-year. Overall, not every product is reviewed every year, and certainly not every product is reviewed multiple times a year.
The cut-in is a really good thing that you can sometimes slide into, but it's very rare that you would get that spot, so you need to not rely on a cut-in date.
Let's be realistic about the timeline in retail. I like to use the analogy of a farming harvest. Typically in farming, what you're doing is you're planting all the seeds for the year. What you should not be doing is anticipating a big harvest after month 1 or 2. This is a very, very common mistake. In fact, those seeds are growing, but most times they're growing underground. The roots are spreading, things are being accomplished, but yeah, you're not getting purchase orders. If you have an improper idea about the harvest, you're going to be making bad decisions based on that information.
I'll just add that you want to be very careful on how much inventory you do buy and don't overbuy thinking that it's going to be so easy to get into retail or that your buying season will happen right around the corner. You want to wait and get those relationships started with your buyers, get the conversations flowing and stay relevant, and then consider what your inventory should be or what it may look like for this year, for the buying year.
The way Anthill wins and the way that you will win is get as many lines in the water as possible, meaning reach out to as many retail outlets as possible so you're more likely to land those spots. Only 3% of salespeople are trusted nationwide among all industries. Be determined to beat the odds. One way you can do this in retail sales is by not acting like a Cutco door-to-door salesman. All of your phone call conversation and all your email conversation should be a professional B2B type of email, B2B type of phone call. Don't ever act as if you're grateful to be there.
You want to make sure that you are playing as if you were an equal player, but still be respectful. You don't want to act like you're a beggar and that you're like begging for crumbs. You have an awesome product and you have every right to present to a buyer. Just make sure you're being respectful and that you're having expectations that are appropriate for the situation.
Yeah, just to finalize on that point, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make this an analytical sell for the buyer. You're trying to give them sell-through numbers. You're trying to make them look like you're going to be competent. This is a good move. This is going to be worth their time to delete a product, spend 4 or 5 months setting you up in the system as a vendor, only because you're going to be selling more than that previous brand.
And you're going to be easy to work with and somebody that they can trust, a company that they can trust.
Yes. In retail, only 24% of email communication is even opened. Only 2% is responded to. Keep that in mind. We ran an analysis last year over 2 months, and we realized it's 8 times more efficient to call a buyer than to be emailing that buyer.
You get lost a lot of times in their inbox. Even if you have a really catching subject header or a short, precise email that will be easy to respond to, it's always best to follow up those emails and even precede those emails with a phone call. And even if you catch them on their voicemail, at least they'll know and they'll start catching on to your name that you are calling and that you're not going away, that you have a reputable product that they should look at.
On average, it takes 18 phone calls to land a sell. We have found that on average, and depending by the channel, we have to make 3 outbound calls in order to have a 2-minute substantial dialogue with a buyer. Let me provide a tip to parlay your dialogues. Get a warm conversation going with a current buyer that you're having with a different product line or a buyer that you know, and have them reference your product. Those are always going to get responded better than without it.
And on average, it takes 18 calls before you actually get anywhere or any momentum with a buyer. So if you keep that in mind, also think about how long, like you can't call a buyer every day. So those 18 calls can't be in 1 month, obviously. So if you're taking 18 calls to get somewhere with a buyer, that's going to be over like 4 or 5 months in order to not bug them enough that they're going to be putting you on their blacklist.
That's a great point. I would actually just reference 1 or 2 times specifically in the week that you're going to have specific follow-up. Anyway, this has been a great dialogue, a great discussion about setting a proper realistic expectation on the retail buyer timeline.